Have you ever considered that one of the world's most effective intelligence agencies isn't the CIA or Mossad, but the Vatican? This document completely shifts the perspective on centuries of global power. Welcome to Strategic Labs. If you're into strategic insights like this, go ahead and like and subscribe.
All right, let's kick things off with this quote from the legendary Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal. I mean, think about it. When he was asked to name the best intelligence service on the planet, he didn't point to Langley or Tel Aviv, he pointed to Rome. That right there, that sets the stage for everything we're about to get into.
So let's dive into what makes this service so different. You know, we're not talking about some agency cooked up during the Cold War or World War II. No, we are talking about a clandestine service with roots stretching back almost 500 years. It's hands down the oldest continuously operating intelligence service in the world.
It started out as La Santa Alianza, the Holy Alliance, founded way back in 1566 by Pope Pius V, a guy who used to run the Inquisition, so he knew a thing or two about secrets. Its purpose? To fight back against the Protestant Reformation. Fast forward to the 20th century, it gets a new name, the Entity. But its core mission? Well, that has never changed. Defend the papacy by any means necessary. It really does operate like a true state intelligence agency.
And this brings us to our first major disruptive point. It's the sheer age of this thing, and maybe even more importantly, the unique motivation of its agents. It's just operating on a totally different psychological level than any of its rivals. Now just look at this timeline for some context. The Holy Alliance was up and running for centuries before the modern intelligence world even existed. It was doing its thing back in the age of Queen Elizabeth I, long before Britain's MI6 or America's CIA were even a glimmer in anyone's eye. And this isn't just about being old. It's about having centuries of accumulated tradecraft and experience. And this table really hits home the fundamental difference in what drives these agents. You see, agents for the CIA or the KGB, they fought to defend a country or a political ideology, the American lifestyle, the communist lifestyle. But the Vatican's agents, they operated purely in defense of the faith itself. Their allegiance wasn't to a flag, it was to the cross.
Okay, let's move on to our second disruptive point, and you'll see how this mindset builds. This agency was never just about passively collecting information. Nope. From day one, it was designed for full-spectrum covert action. And that means everything from spying to direct intervention, all to protect the church from its enemies.
The whole structure was really sophisticated and broken up into different parts. You had the Entity for foreign intelligence, then there was the Sodalicium Pianum handling internal counter-espionage, basically hunting for modernist threats within the church itself. And then, according to the source material, you had these parallel groups like the Orden Negra, the Black Order, and its job allegedly included the physical liquidation of the church's biggest enemies. So the big question is, how was all this power actually used? And that brings us to our third and honestly most provocative disruption, a geopolitical strategy that was just ruthlessly pragmatic and often pretty morally ambiguous.
Just take a look at this. During the Cold War, the Vatican decided that atheistic communism was its #1 enemy. So on one hand, what does it do? It teams up with the CIA, feeding intelligence to the Solidarity movement to help take down the Soviet bloc in Poland. But on the other hand, at the same time, it was running the Pasillo Vaticano, the Vatican corridor. This was a rat line that helped Nazi war criminals escape. And why? Because these guys were seen as useful, battle-hardened assets for a future fight against the Soviets. It's a textbook and pretty stunning display of realpolitik, a foreign policy based purely on practical power, not on morals or ideology.
So, what's the key takeaway here? I mean, how does knowing all this force us to kind of rethink the whole game of global power?
Well, the evidence is pretty clear. For 500 years, the Vatican has been acting like a sophisticated and, often ruthless state on the world stage. It's used espionage, covert action, and shady alliances not just to guide souls, but to protect its power, its wealth, and its influence. It is a geopolitical force you just can't afford to ignore.
Which really just leaves us with this one fundamental question. Is the Vatican a church that happens to have a state, or is it a state that happens to have a church? The answer to that has been shaping our world for a very, very long time. This is just a preview. For the full deep dive, check out our long-form podcast on the channel. See you in the next one.